America totally plays out the role of the toxic divorce situation. So it's a perfect metaphor. I know it's probably offensive to some people, but it seems like a perfect metaphor as a pastor. America basically had a reset in 1991 with Russia, because after 50 years of Cold War, the Cold War was supposed to have ended. So technically they had a proper divorce, and they should now start their relationship anew. Russia is like the man and has moved on. Everything is done. We agreed to everything. We said we're doing this financial settlement. We said we're doing this child custody. We gave up all the children. We never said we even want Estonia, Lithuania, or any of these countries back. And you promised that you don't keep coming closer and closer. We are now separated. And NATO totally ignored that. And NATO and Americans continue to act with the mindset of the Cold War. So even if you turn on the TV right now, it's so hard to watch because I've been through the propaganda of Gulf War I, Gulf War II, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria. It's the same story over and over, and now people are eating it up again. Now it's Ukraine, and now it's going to be Russia, because anything with, it's not Ukraine that's the issue is going to be Russia. And if they have a war with Russia, it's not like fighting Afghanistan, it's not like fighting Iraq. You're fighting the world's greatest nuclear superpower. You heard me correctly. It is the world's greatest, not second greatest, the greatest. Not just in terms of numbers, because you see they have more nuclear warheads. I think that they have, so far, what they've advertised in their technology, they got little submarine bombs with nuclear warheads that see a little trough and go shoop, see a little coral, goes up, makes a turn. These things are, I've never seen things like that. I don't know if America has things like that. But the prophecy that America would get attacked on the East Coast and the West Coast says that they will get a surprise attack by submarine. Russia has that. It's no joke. You don't want to, keep Ukraine there, negotiate peace, stop calling for the assassination of a nation's leader. You wouldn't put up with that. If you turn the table, again, it's like a toxic divorce. All you have to do is turn the table and you realize how ridiculous it is. Say the same thing about the other side and it'd be ridiculous. Let Russia say, we are calling for anyone who's near Kamala Harris or Biden, we call on them to do them physical harm, to assassinate them is what they're saying. You would be absolutely outraged. In fact, I believe even the Republicans would come to the defense of their president. Because you've really dishonored, you've really insulted the country. You have basically declared war. On so many levels, America has declared war, and yet America will be like the toxic divorce lady who will say, but it's all your fault, it's all your fault. And yet you're instigating non-stop these aggressive behaviors, and you call him a killer, you call him, what else do they say? A war criminal. You imagine somebody, he's the leader of the largest nuclear superpower, and you call him a war criminal for doing one thing. And yet, America, how many times has America gone into foreign countries unprovoked? It's recent memory that it went in and killed Gaddafi, right? Or created the environment and the situation. Armed people to the hilt. CIA operatives openly admit that they have these, state destabilizing programs in nearly all the countries of the world. They give them intelligence. They show them who are the targets in foreign countries. CIA backed. US money backed. And the US has done this over and over. And the sad thing is, the US is a great country because there's so many great people, so many great churches, and a great history and a great founding, and yet you can never do away with the law of sowing and reaping. America will have nuclear explosions in their cities. They must, because they dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan. And you can argue about, well, that's how the war ended. But actually, the war would have ended anyway. And a lot of people bring the race thing in is, why didn't they do it to Germany? And it's hard to argue against the fact that, well, when it's white on white, it's a lot tougher to sell. And I'm not, I'm not racially provoked, racially inclined at all. Yet you've got to say why you can drop it on yellow skin but not on white skin. And why is it Ukraine matters so much but Yemen doesn't matter? Yemen, we don't call on TV, look at these proud Yemens, look at these brave Yemeni people defending their country. There are people defending their country all over the world, but if they're brown skin, if they're Arabs, doesn't matter. But Ukraine is white, so suddenly it matters. It's easy, right? It's easy to paint that narrative if people want to racially divide America. Why you pick and choose? If you're about justice, if you're about, not allowing unprovoked invasion, it's going on all over the world. Africa's got problems. How come you're not coming to the rescue? So Ukraine is something strange, right? I'm sure good people, lots of Christians I heard, but something stinks not in Denmark, something stinks in Ukraine. Another distinction of Ukraine is that it had probably the worst anti-Semitic murder in World War II. And it wasn't the Nazis, it was the Ukrainian. Not the German Nazis, it was the Ukrainians who relished in the bloodbath. To the point that I don't know of any case where the Nazis had to stop the Ukrainians. The Nazis were appalled by the Ukrainian murder of Jews. Can you imagine that? So why don't we ever hear things like this? Something is strange, and I'm not against Ukraine. Why would I be? One of my friends actually led, I think, one of the greatest revivals in modern time, one of the greatest crusades in Ukraine. He's a friend of mine. Speaks highly of Ukraine, talks about how they went in. There was all sorts of corruption. He talked about the corruption there, but had to pay off somebody to finally do like a Billy Graham-style evangelistic crusade. And out of that crusade, a lot of people got born again and became the modern pastors of Ukraine. But if you don't address, even as pastors in churches, any of these social, political issues from a biblical perspective, and you're just playing church and doing kind of the Western message of church, I think this is a warning. It ain't working. And your country can go to hell in a matter of 15 days. 6 million people displaced. Nobody is happy with that. Nobody wants that. But it happened in the Bible. It happened in the Bible. It happened many times in the Bible. And when people realize it's judgment for sin, they change their behavior. So I talk about Rahab. Rahab saw Israel was coming. Everyone saw Israel was coming. Isn't that an invasion? Right? The Canaanites were in sin. That's an invasion. And what did Rahab do? If Rahab was Zelensky, Rahab would say, "Glory to Jericho. Glory to Jericho. Send more arms to Jericho. Give me more arms. Give me more weapons. Give me more drones to Jericho." But she was spiritually sensitive enough to realize sin is sin, our cup is full, and Israel is God's instrument to come and punish us. Does that mean she hates her city, hates her family? No. She did everything possible by repenting and acknowledging they deserve this. She brought a great salvation to herself and to her family. She humbled herself. But Zelensky is going more proud, falling into deeper pride, saying glory to Ukraine. Why not at least glory to Hashem if he's a Jew? A Torah-observant Jew, which clearly he's not. Did a video dancing with a pig, and it was completely against the standards and morals of any Torah-observant Jew. So Rahab is a good example, and there are many other examples. Jeremiah is a good example. Humble yourself. When you know that judgment is at your door, humble yourself. There's still salvation. Lots of people could have been spared. But my concern is, like any toxic divorce, it can go on forever and ever. People say this, if women ruled the world, there will be no war. Are you sure? Are you sure? Because you've experienced it yourself. You've experienced it when you have a fight with a woman, or a woman wants to undermine you or destroy your reputation. I like how Jordan Peterson says it, that men tend to be more physical to get their aggression out, but women tend to not be as physical, so they go to reputation destruction. And you've experienced that. You think that's going to create a more peaceful world? In fact, I think now we have more female leaders than ever before, and we have probably got more deaths and more chaos than ever before. So men and women are different. Men and women have different roles. But one thing about men do fight, but men end fights. Every war comes to an end. And when it ends, it really ends. Think about America and Germany. They're killing each other. And then when upon a handshake, upon a signature, they're friends for the next 70 years. Friends, real friends, trading partners, sharing military, technology, poetry, whatever you want to share. It's done. Think about America and Japan. When you drop 2 bombs on somebody, if that was negotiated by women, it would be, we hate you for life. We can never forgive you ever again. I'm just judging it by what I've seen as a pastor. I'm not in geopolitics, but I can read the history. They shook hands. They just dropped 2 bombs that killed hundreds of thousands of their Japanese citizens. They shook hands and became trading partners and helped rebuild. They helped rebuild Japan to the point that Japan became the 2nd biggest economic powerhouse in the world. Now maybe 3rd. So where is this leading? If this goes the way of a toxic divorce, which is exactly how it's playing out right now, going through the 5 stages of false accusations, just layering on the accusations, hoping anything sticks, making Russia just the bad guy, you know, like the, what do they call it? The deadbeat dad. They like to say that, deadbeat dad. And just layering on the accusations. Then you go for, but I need your oil, and I need some financial settlement, right? And then you go to the regret. Anyway, I showed you all the 5 steps. So if it keeps going this way, then we're heading to World War III, because there's no end. When we say toxic, it means like radioactive. You know, there's no end. I guess there's an end in 5,000 years or 10,000 years to radioactivity, but toxic is toxic. Toxic is some bad stuff. And a toxic relationship means you can never end it. You try to end, you try to appease, you try to compromise, you try to give in, you try to give the money, you try to give the children, you try to give everything you possibly can, and it never stops. The accusations, the filth, the aggression, the antagonism never stops. So if this is how we're going to keep acting, and Americans are falling prey to this, being on this side, the female side of the equation of this toxic relationship, Russia looking like the strong masculine side, then it's going to be World War III. And that will change everything. And I think all the feminism in the world is going to hate World War III, because everything, any progress, any even good positive progress that we've made in our modern Western society will be leveled to rubbles very quickly. You do not want a nuclear bomb on any city in Australia, in America, not right now. But the world is in a frenzy, and it's the same irrational aggression that I see when people are in toxic, unhealthy relationships. And the point of it is, okay, so they went through the 5 stages, but America never settled, never had closure, that Russia changed already. Russia said, Estonia, Lithuania, all those Baltic countries, they're gone, they're independent. We're never asking for them again, and they haven't. Putin never asked for them. And yet they say Putin is this madman that's bent on conquering the whole world, but he's never said he wants to take them back. He believes areas that are ethnically Russian are related to him, have cultural, historical ties to him, and you and I don't understand that unless we live there. We did not grow up in that area. So maybe there is some claim to that. Just like, Mexicans might say, California, New Mexico used to belong to Mexico. I mean, it's in the name, New Mexico. Right? The names, San Francisco, Los Angeles, these are not English names, these are all Spanish names, right? So you have to let America and Mexico settle these kind of things. You and I wouldn't even understand. I mean, 20 years ago, Melburnians didn't know what a taco was. Now we eat burritos and everybody knows chimichanga. Oh no, you still don't know chimichangas. But you know burritos now and tacos, okay. Enchiladas, you know enchiladas, right? You don't have the taco salad yet. Wait till that comes. That's going to make you real fat. They layer on the sour cream and the guacamole and all that. Anyway, the point is, why are Americans still having the mindset of pre-divorce, the Cold War is settled. The Cold War was won without any bombs, without any war. That was good. Ronald Reagan did a good job with Gorbachev. Right? I was alive. I remember those things. But because America continued after the Cold War ended to believe and treat Russia as a perpetual enemy, Russia never had a chance. They never had a chance to restore the relationship. Russia actually said, we have a right, being Europeans, to be part of determining European security. Why are they left out? Why are they treated like they're Cold War enemies? So in the reconfiguring of security in Europe, why wasn't Russia included in NATO? Even the idea, so the article was saying, the idea of accepting NATO members in piecemeal, meaning America will determine who is the next nation worthy of coming in. And usually it's if you go to war with America in some other foreign land, we will reward you with NATO membership. That whole piecemeal idea was going to lead us to present-day conflict. And that's what Matlock was saying, Matlock Jr. was saying in that article. I was there. He said he told Congress and he predicted that we would be here today in 2022. Because you're treating Russia with a Cold War mentality. That's a toxic divorce. That's a toxic relationship. You never understand how things, okay, you've signed the papers, you've had the financial settlement, you've got now the independence. Then we move on as friends, like America and Germany, like America and Japan. We're not pretending to be friends, but in our hearts still at war. And that's the fault of America to do that to Russia. And I'm not saying Russia is a great country. I'm not saying that the whole KGB time wasn't awful. I'm sure it was. I'm sure it's terrible. But you don't have a right to treat them as perpetual enemies when they complied with and they agreed to and they did everything that you asked them to do. Russia really did it. Gorbachev really did it. What's America done? Turn on the TV tonight, you'll see Putin the madman, Putin the evil man, who kept the agreement. And you'll always hear that in a toxic divorce. So that's my reason for bringing that analogy, because I think many people can see toxic divorces in your lives. You've seen it. Some of you have experienced it. So now you say, what's going on a personal level is now elevated to a geopolitical, extinction level war. You don't want that. You don't want that. People are people. If we train ourselves to accept this kind of interpersonal conflict, it's going to show up in geopolitical events. It's not worth it. I think it's not worth it. But obviously many people do. Many people continue to enjoy their toxic divorce, and let them do, I guess. Let those people do. But if there's any rationality, if there's any voice of reason in your head, you would stop it, stop the, it's called jingoistic rhetoric, drumming for war, beating the war drums. Whose good is that going to serve? Certainly not the gospel. Certainly not the gospel. It doesn't advance evangelism, church building, when people are at war. People don't have time when they're in survival mode to listen to a nice sermon. and to read a nice gospel tract. It is in the interest of Christianity that we don't follow the war wagon.